Hello everyone from the Novedge team. Welcome to today's webinar, Getting the Most of AutoCAD 2017. Join Autodesk Technical Evangelist and Cadalyst columnist Lynn Allen as she takes you on a tour of the many AutoCAD 2017 productivity enhancements, including importing PDF files as geometry and the new Smart Centerline Center Mark tools. Knowing Lynn, she's sure to throw in some tips and tricks you can use regardless of the AutoCAD release you're using. Lynn Allen speaks to more than 30,000 users worldwide each year. For the past 22 years, she has written a column for Cadalyst magazine called Circles and Lines and is the voice behind the popular Cadalyst videos Tips and Tricks with Lynn Allen. Before we get going, here's an overview of what we do in Novedge. Novedge is one of the largest online stores for design software. We offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's needs. So it's a one-stop shop, and design software, we got it. Visit our webpage at novedge.com. And for more daily software news and limited time promotions, also pay a visit to the Novedge blog and follow us on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. Right now, in fact, Autodesk is offering a promotion with a discount of over 50% off the cost of a 3-year subscription when you turn in your old license. And going all the way back to release 14, that would be 1998. So you have till October 21st to find those old licenses. Check all your drawers and under the bed. You might have some that, you may want to trade in. Coming up next week, the best bits from Vectorworks 2017. And last but not least, today's webinar is free and it's being recorded live. And if you want to rewatch it, just go on YouTube and search for Novedge, subscribe, and so you can see all of our webinars dating from a few years ago. And now, Lynn, I'm going to pass the screen to you and the microphone, and enjoy the show.
Okay, thank you so much, and big thanks to Novedge for continuing to invite me to participate in their webinars, and thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join me today. So as was mentioned, I'm going to be talking to you about getting the most out of AutoCAD 2017. So for those of you who have already upgraded, this will give you a chance to see the new features and hopefully try some of the new features, right? Because we do have a tendency to use our software the same way we used it the year before and the year before that. So hopefully I'll encourage you and you'll be inspired to try a couple of the new features, or maybe all of them if I'm really lucky, that you learn about today. And I know that many of you on this webinar probably haven't upgraded yet. This will give you a chance to see what's inside of AutoCAD 2017. And you'll be able to, make an executive decision for yourself, an informed decision if it looks like something that you might want to upgrade to. All right. So if you take a look at each of the releases of AutoCAD, the fabulous AutoCAD team gets together and they come up with a theme, and you can kind of see the themes over the past few years. And I'm going to tell you that I kind of cheated on the 2017 theme. I actually changed it to what I thought was so appropriate for this year's release, because they granted so many wishes inside of AutoCAD 2017, including the #1 wish list request. It's been the #1 AUGI, for those of you who are familiar with the Autodesk User Group International, AUGI. The #1 wish list, and that is the ability to bring in a PDF and convert it to AutoCAD objects. Yay! They did a great job at it as well. But we're going to talk about quite a few new features. Some of them are wishes granted. Some of them were wishes I didn't even know needed to be granted, but now I'm glad that they were. So some very clever new features also put into AutoCAD. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right. So I'm going to start off with the user interface, just because if you are not comfortable with the user interface, well, you're not going to be happy with it, right? So let's make sure you feel all nice and cozy and comfortable in it. I'm happy to report no big surprises, just a few. And these are tiny little changes, but I want to make sure that you're aware of them, because if someone doesn't tell you, you might miss out, right? So let's take a look. I'm going to jump over to AutoCAD. And hopefully you can all see the great AutoCAD 2017 screen here. And just a few little things, okay? This was a big wish list request. It sounds pretty simple, but if you go into a dialog box with a list in it, and we didn't have the ability to make these dialog boxes any bigger in the past, so we always had to do the scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, so boring. Now I'm happy to report that in nearly all of the dialog boxes that have a list in them, like for example, the page setup manager. Maybe you have a lot of page setups. Now you can easily change the size of these dialog boxes, and the good thing is that they remember the size, so you don't have to keep changing the size of them. That means not so much scrolling, and that means less calories burned while you're using AutoCAD, but a little extra time. Plus, oh, so tedious, right? And I love what they did with the insert command as well. So, okay, this is not a very good block, is it? So let me point out, you can make the preview really big, which sometimes is important, especially if you have a lot of blocks that look the same. And I also love, now take a look where it says name. I'm going to type in HS, and it's going to go to the one, in this case, one and only block that starts with HS, because now it says autocomplete. That means, once again, less scrolling, which is so boring. I'm too lazy for that. And you can find your blocks a lot faster, okay? Little things, but those little things add up to a lot. And we also had some requests. Let me go into the unit command. If you work with surveyors, or if you are a surveyor, you'll be happy to know that we added an additional value for inserted content of U.S. survey feet. That was a wish list request from a small but mighty group that was added into AutoCAD 2017. Have you ever done this? Have you ever selected objects inside of AutoCAD and then reached over to hit the delete key and nothing happens? Okay, I'm going to hit the delete key, and I want you to see that in AutoCAD 2017, it says, hey, just so you know, the reason these objects aren't going to delete is because Pick First is turned off. And would you like me to turn it on? You CAD managers are going to love this, because you probably have some users that accidentally keep turning Pick First off. It's right up there with CAD, right? They accidentally turn it off, and then you're supposed to try to fix the commands that don't work very well without Pick First being turned on. So this is great. I can say yes, and it will turn Pick First on, and the world will continue to rotate on its axis, and the delete key will work, and it will delete my objects. All right, I'm going to bring them back. So let's keep those guys. Okay, what else? Once again, these are kind of little. The next one's going to be the big crowd pleaser, the PDF import. But let's tackle these guys first, just so we're all on the same page. Okay, if I move my cursor up to the ribbon, and I'm hoping you guys are all using the ribbon, you will see that a tooltip appears, and it appears in a specific amount of time that has been pre-decided for you by the AutoCAD team. But apparently some people care exactly how long it takes for the tooltips to appear on the screen. I don't know if you're one of them. But if you go to options underneath display, you can turn tooltips off altogether if you don't like them. But if you think they show up too fast or too slow, you now have the ability to control the number of seconds before they show up on your screen. Now we can all sleep at night. Yay! To me, it doesn't really matter to me, but maybe it matters to you. Okay, let's see. And then the last one, I kind of affectionately call this the way to torture your coworker option. Because I think this is to make the cursor a little more like the Revit cursor. I think that's why they put this in here. But there is this new system variable called cursor type, which incidentally I found out about from a gentleman named Reed Addis in watching one of his presentations. We didn't even know about it internally at AutoCAD. So it's kind of on the AutoCAD team, they stuck it in without telling the world. So just so you know, in case somebody does this to you, I'm going to set cursor type to, well, before I do that, let's look at the cursor, right? That's my cursor. You know, you might have yours set up a little bit differently. If I go into erase, you know, I have a little pick box. Okay, let's change cursor type to, oops, helps if I, okay, look, let's go back down here. Cursor type, there it is right there. Sorry, it helps if I can also type cursor type. I'm going to set it to 1, and you will see that now my cursor is an arrow. It's the Windows arrow. Did anybody want that? If you did, your dreams have just been fulfilled. I'm going to put it back to 0. And I'm going to turn off dynamic input because I think it's a little bit easier for you to see at the command line in a webcast. So I actually like to work with it on. I don't know how you like to work with it, but I think that'll be a little bit easier. All right, so we got those little nitty-gritty items out of the way. Let's go back over to the PowerPoint presentation. Once again, that was the system variable cursor type, right? We'll put that back to 0. I didn't already do that. Let's move on to the ultra exciting stuff. The number one wish list request, the ability to import PDF files and convert them to AutoCAD geometry, right? We could bring them in before as an underlay, but and then we could kind of trace over them if we wanted to, but we did not have the ability to convert the objects to geometry. Such a crowd pleaser. So excited about this. So there's two ways of doing it. If you have an underlay already in your drawing file, you can convert it to AutoCAD geometry. You can select the parts of it you want to convert. Or you can, of course, just use the PDF import command, and you can just bring it, the whole darn thing in as AutoCAD geometry. So a few details here. It loves TrueType fonts. It does a great job with TrueType fonts, brings it in as real-life text. It does not love SHX fonts. So those will come in. They will look great, but they will not be treated as text. They'll actually be brought in like as individual polylines and ellipses and things like that. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So they look great, but unfortunately they don't come in as text. It loves raster images, but it brings them in as PNG files, and you do have the control over the directory that the PNG files land in. That's also pretty nice. All right? It does a really good job. People have been so happy. I've been really happy with it. I've heard a lot of good success stories with it. So that's not what I want. Let's go over to, this is a PDF file. I'm going to, here I am over in model space. I'm going to click on it and you will see it's a PDF because the ribbon automatically changes to a PDF underlay, right? So that's a good tip off. Let's turn off a few layers. I don't have to. Just going to make it very, very clear what's happening here. We'll turn off a few layers. So now I just have the geometry. And incidentally, I could have brought in the dimensioning. I could have brought in all of that. Just realize the dimensioning will not come in as actual dimensioning. It will come in as individual geometry objects. All right, still looks great. This isn't going to be the smart dimensions that you and I know and love. All right, import as objects. I'm going to put a window around this view. We're just going to, once again, keep this really simple. And if you look at the command line, you'll see I have some options. Do I want to keep that underlay? Do I want to get rid of that underlay? I'm going to detach it and give it just a quick second. She says a quick second. That was longer than usual. And you will see, very simple, but you can see that it did a beautiful job, right? That's a polyline. Here we have another polyline. It converted the circles. It just, you know, it does the best it can to connect as many objects as possible, and it favors polylines over individual lines, which is a beautiful thing. So we can keep the entity count down, right? Okay, I'm going to erase all of that. We're going to try another approach. Let's go to the Insert tab on the ribbon. Let's go to PDF Import. I'm going to import a file. You'll see underlay is an option on there. And I am going to bring in this guy right here. Let's open that. And you'll see that this PDF file has a variety of pages. I'm only going to bring in page 3, all right? And I know the scale factor is 1/4 inch equals a foot, so I'm going to type in 48. And let's take a look at this dialog box because there's some incredibly important things on here. So I bet you one of the questions already that someone typed in is whether or not these PDF files have to come from AutoCAD, and they do not, which is a beautiful thing. So if you have a paper drawing somewhere, way before the CAD days, you can actually scan that drawing and convert it to a PDF, right? During the scan, you'll scan it as a PDF, and you can bring that drawing into AutoCAD, and AutoCAD will do the best job it can to convert it to geometry. It's obviously not going to understand this handwritten text to convert it to text, but it will do the best job it can. And that also means that if you have a copy stain on your drawing file, that hard copy, hey, guess what? You'll get a circle in AutoCAD, right? So let's say you were to bring in a PDF file that originally started as an AutoCAD drawing file. Well, then you probably want to use the PDF layers because it's already going to have the right layers in place. Maybe you wanted to bring all the objects in as specific object types on those specific layers, like a circle layer, a line layer, whatever. Or maybe you have a special layer for this import, which is probably what I would do if I was bringing in an old scanned drawing, and I would just put everything on this kind of current layer so then I could, do what I wanted to with it. It's just a thought. There's some other things in here. Maybe you don't want the raster images to come across, not sure why. This join line and arc segments definitely keep the entity count down. Convert solid fills to hatches, that's up to you. This one is so important and is not on by default. Infer line types from collinear dashes. If you do not select that and have that on, that means if you have like a dash or a dash dot line type, they will all come in as individual objects, which that's going to really bump your entity count up. That's not a good thing. So I think you should have that selected. And like I mentioned, for some reason, it's not on by default. All right, look at this beautiful job it did. It did a beautiful job. Now, this is what I was talking about here. If I move my cursor up here, you will see that it recognizes that as M text. All right, and then I come over here. This is clearly an SHX font, and you'll see it doesn't recognize it as text at all. It looks great, but look, that's an ellipse. We saw a polyline. So you would have to do some work to convert it to actual text. You would probably erase it and do it again if that was important to you, if for some reason you need to modify it. And then we also have a raster image in here. If I move my cursor on there, you'll see that it says it's a raster image. And I also want to show you very quickly how you can control the directory that the raster images fall into, right here, PDF import image location. All right, awesome, awesome sauce. They did such a great job at this. It always makes me super happy. All right, I think we covered all of that. Let's move along. And I like these too. So we've had center lines and center marks in AutoCAD, but they just haven't been very smart. They haven't been associative. So like if you move a circle, for example, the center line, center marks don't go with it, right? They stay behind and they have no reason to move. If you change the size of the circle, center marks look exactly the same. So we want to elevate the IQ of center lines and center marks. There's a whole bunch of system variables so that you can control exactly the way they look. That's up to you. I think it does a great job with the defaults, but we all have our own deal with center marks and center lines. And if for some reason you decide that you don't want these to be associated, there is a center disassociate command. Of course there is, a big long command that allows you to get rid of that associativity. But why? That is my question. Why would you do that? Let's go back over to AutoCAD. And let's go over, we're going to go to model space, and hopefully you guys can see that okay. Keep changing the background color. Probably this one, the dark, is probably a little easier to see. But let's not go there, shall we? Let's talk about center marks and center lines. I'm going to go to the Annotate tab on the ribbon. Let's do a center line. I'm going to select this object here and this object here. And you can see it did a beautiful center line. And it also has these awesome grips, so I can do what I want to with that center mark. But here, excuse me, center line, but here's the important part. If I modify one of the objects, can you see how that center line is changing? If I modify those objects in any way, the associativity is going to cause the center line to adjust accordingly. And I love that. That's great. Let's take a look at center marks. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this circle right here. I put the center mark on there. I will mention, if you look at the command line, the center mark command repeats. I always forget that. It keeps repeating and repeating. Center lines do not do that for a good reason, but so just realize you have to hit an escape or an extra enter to get out of that command. And then I'm going to take the circle and I'm going to move it, and you're going to see the center mark goes with it. If I change the size of the circle, the center mark will adjust. And then I also want to show you that there are all of these system variables and all of these ways. Here I'm in the properties dialog box. So you can control all of the individual aspects of center marks and center lines. Okay? There's like the cross gap, extensions, and blah, blah, blah. Center marks, center lines. Easy. That's another thing I like. A lot of the new features in 2017 are easy to use. It doesn't take a lot of time to figure that out, right? So let's move on. Let's talk about graphics. So inside of AutoCAD 2015 and 16, they've been working really hard on the graphics. We're all familiar, if you've used AutoCAD for any length of time, if you have a line that's not orthogonal, but it's off by like 1 degree, the lines would always show up all jagged, right? That was the way it was in AutoCAD for a long time, which also was helpful so that we knew it wasn't orthogonal. It looked ridiculous. It was so now they've fixed that. All of our lines look great regardless of the angle. As you zoom in on circles, they all look great and round. You don't have to worry about setting variables like VRes. The graphics have improved dramatically. So let's talk just a little bit about some of the graphics some other graphics that have been updated inside of AutoCAD 2017. If you take a look in the upper right-hand corner of my PowerPoint slide, this is the way dotted line types used to look in AutoCAD. They were really faint. They were hard to see. Now they printed fine. It's kind of scary when the display does not match your print, right? Okay, so that was a problem. So now in 2017, those dotted line types will show up exactly the way they're going to print. That's going to make everybody's life just a little bit easier. And if you take a look in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, if you had a dash dot line type, the dots would display as boxes. They didn't look very dot-like. You take a look in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, that's the way they look in 2017. They are actually round, they are actually dots, and they look fantastic. And then if you look in the very bottom of the screen here with these 2 crosshatch patterns, if you had a very closely spaced hatch pattern, a parallel hatch pattern, when you zoomed out, it did not look right. It looked like it was not evenly spaced. But now inside of AutoCAD, and it printed okay, once again, you zoomed in, it looked okay, just didn't look okay when you were zoomed all the way out. Okay, they fixed that. You won't be confused anymore. You won't think you made a mistake. It's all going to, what you see is what you get, and that's what we really want with our AutoCAD display. Okay, I'm going to show you just a couple of these. I'm going to show you this awesome system variable, LT gap selection. It's going to make your life just fabulous. Everything is going to make your life just fabulous. Okay, let's go over to 3D graphics. I'm going to go to model space. This is a dotted line type. I just want you to see it's nice and dark. It's not super faint, which I think is really, really good. Okay, let's, I think I'm going to go to a dark background. Will you just give me a second here? Let's change that. Actually, that's not what I want, Lynn. I want to go to, this is why you don't do it on the fly, right? We want to go back to, well, let's try black. I think you'll be able to see better on the webcast. I think for projectors, lots of times, I like, okay. All right, that was a little slow. That's better. You can see that better. I think on projectors, sometimes the light colors actually look better. So let's work with you here. Okay, looks good. So I'm going to actually select this line type. Let's go ahead and select this line type. I'm going to come over here to properties, and let's do a couple things. I'm going to change it to a dash dot line type, and I'm going to make it really nice and thick. Okay, let's make this a lot thicker than it is. How about that looks better? Just to show you once again that, yay, the dots actually look like dots, which is a good thing, right? Simple little, tiny little features. What else do I want to show you here? I want to show you this amazing system variable that I love. Okay, have you ever done this? You've tried to select a line, an object that has a line type, and you go where there's the gap, where there's the space, and it can't see it. Or even worse, if you tried to use an object snap, that would force a snap to a gap, and it wouldn't let you because it couldn't see the object. Oh my goodness, you're going to love this system variable. LT gap selection. Right, let's turn that to 1, and incidentally, it is off by default. So if you're taking notes, write that down. LT gap selection. You want to turn that to 1. Let's leave that baby on, because look, now as I move my cursor in the gaps, look what happens. It can see me. If I go into the erase command and I try to pick it in the gap, it sees it. Or if I was doing an object snap, that is a tiny little thing, but that is a beautiful thing. Am I wrong? I am not wrong. Let's go over to, let's take a look at, let's go, there we go. That's what happens when you change the background color. I just want to show you the hatch. Zoomed out really far, you can see the hatch looks great, right? And one other thing, while I'm here, I'm going to do a double click on that text, and as we know, that executes the text edit command, and I'm going to just modify it in some way, shape, or form. And I want you to take a look at the command line, and I want you to see that text to edit now loops. It does a repeat. There's a new multiple option, which is on by default. They decided that one should be on by default. That allows you to continue to edit a variety of different types of text. So I could come down here, and even though it says M-text, I could edit that one as well. It allows me to edit a bunch of text very, very quickly. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out while I'm in a good drawing to show that to you. That has nothing to do with graphics. Design views. Okay, this is one of those things that I didn't know I needed, but now that I have it, I love it. I'm sure many of you have had to share your AutoCAD drawing files with, you have clients who want to view them, right? But they don't have AutoCAD. They don't have any type of, A360 account. They don't have a way of viewing it. You need to make it easy for them to view your drawing files. And you also don't want them to be able to hurt your drawing files, right? You want them to be able to look but not touch. So you're going to love the new design views. They're very simple to use, and it's going to make it easy for you to share your drawing files with stakeholders, which I think is really important. Nobody needs to be part of, they don't have to have any type of an account, they don't have to log on to anything. You are going to send them a link, they click on the link, magic happens, they can see your drawing file, they can zoom around, they can pan. You can even have a live review with multiple people inside of that particular view. All right, so how do we create a design view? So we're going to go to the A360 tab. Now I will say for you to do this, you have to have an A360 account. You can see I'm logged into my A360 account. I have no face apparently, no picture. It's free, doesn't cost you any money, just takes you a few seconds to sign up. All right, and A360 has a lot of great advantages. I won't get into those today, but I think at the absolute lowest level, A360 is an awesome backup program because you can set it up so that every time you do a save in AutoCAD, not only will it save it where you would normally save it to, maybe on your local computer or a network drive, but it will also save it to your A360 account. That way, if things go terribly badly, you can easily go find your drawing files. Just something for you to think about. It does way more than that. That's just at its lowest level is a pretty awesome feature. All right, so I went to the A360 tab. I am logged on to my A360 account. They won't have to be logged on to any account. They don't have to have one. And I'm going to click on Share Design View. And there are two options. So I like to say if you get paid by the hour, you want to click on Publish and Display in my browser now. Okay. You do not get paid by the hour. Why don't you just have it let you know when it's done? It'll give you a nice little bubble notification. Okay, we're going to pretend we get paid by the hour though. And I'm just going to, if you just give it a second, it's going to jump out to the browser. She says optimistically, there we go, thank you, not letting me down. And it will upload your drawing file. It's going to upload all the layouts. It's very simple. Now I used to watch it with my mom. I used to watch a lot of Julia Child reruns, of course, and Julia Child always had that cake that she popped right out of the oven because we couldn't sit there and wait for the cake to bake, right? So I don't want to spend too much time waiting for that to post. So I'm going to jump over to one that I did right before the webcast just so we can move along, although it's probably done by now with all of my discussion. So if you take a look, this is my drawing file, right? I can take a look at the various layouts. If I have saved views, I can go to the saved views, very easy to work with. And the most important part on here is this get link, because this, I am signed in. You guys are killing me. Because I had to be signed in to make it. It never does that, guys. Sorry. It should not do that. I'm not really sure why it did that. Let's try that again. Get link. There it is. Copy link. You copy that, you drop it into an email, send it to whoever you want to, and they can come in here and they can check it out. They can zoom, they can pan, they can do some basic measurements. Here's that live review I was talking about, so you can have multiple people taking a look at this drawing at the same time. You just invite them to join you. There's a layer manager, and this is going to be continually developed, so it will have more and more features. But once again, the key here, they can look, but they cannot touch and it's very easy for you to share this with other people. Okay? All right, did it finish? Oh, look at that. I believe that if anything can go wrong, it's completely dependent on how many people are watching the presentations. There must be a lot of you watching the webcast today. A lot of people signed up. Hey, ladies, try them. You will not have to sign in a second time. I'm not sure what the deal was with that. It never happened. Only today. So I'm finding most of my presentations are in front of live audiences, and I like to ask people to raise their hands and let me know if they do any 3D printing. And I'm finding that more and more hands go up over time, especially as the cost of 3D printers come down. I mean, you can go to Amazon and you can buy a 3D printer for the same price as the Xbox. Or, you know, there's print services out there where you can send your models to a print service and let them worry about the materials and the time, right? So I'm finding that more and more people are doing 3D printing. I don't know where you are. I can't see your hands. And so I'm going to just assume that there's a few of you out there. And even if you don't do 3D printing, it's always fun to check this out. Anyway, it's a fun thing to think about. So there is a new app, a new program that comes with AutoCAD 2017. It doesn't install unless you try to do a 3D print, and if you approve. It's called Print Studio. And one of the problems with 3D printing, one of the frustrating things about it is it never works the first time, and it requires usually some repairs to get things to print perfectly. So Print Studio is going to make your life better for those of you who do 3D printing, because it will help prep your model so you don't waste time, you don't waste precious materials either. It's great, and it's easy once again. So there are two different ways to do a 3D print. You can execute the 3D print command if you happen to have a 3D printer hooked up to your computer, or if you are sending it out to a print service, there's a 3D print service command. I know, very clever names, right? That is going to convert the 3D print over to an STL format, and then you can just send that file to whoever you want to do your 3D print. All right, so let's go back over to AutoCAD, and I am going to go over to this mount view model. There it is, and this is kind of a cool little 3D model. I wouldn't mind living in there. You can see I can orbit around there, and I want to 3D print it. I want to take a good look at it and do a little 3D printed model. So I am going to click on the big red A in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Remember, click on that once, not twice, or bad things will happen. I'm going to go to the Publish option and show you that's the Send to 3D Print service. We're going to pretend we have a 3D printer. I do not. Wish I did. Christmas is coming up. And I'm going to click on the 3D print command. Now the first thing it wants to know is, well, what do you want to 3D print, right? So you put a window around the objects you want to do a 3D print on. And this is the way the 3D print command used to work as well. And it is now thinking about the objects that I selected, and it's going to make sure they're nice and watertight. Hello. There we go. And this doesn't look much different than it did before. Oh, it's going a little slow. I think sometimes when we do webinars, it slows things down. Hopefully you guys can all see that. Looks pretty good. You can add more objects. You can control the scale factor here. I'm just going to say OK. And at this point in time, it is going to launch that very cool Print Studio. And I know even when I'm on a webinar, it just takes a second to pull all that together. And there you should be able to see that on your screen. And the first thing I want to do is I want to move the model to the build surface. Now it is way too big for the build surface, so I'm going to scale that down. I'm going to scale it to fit just so you can see it. So this is the very cool Print Studio. Its goal in life is to help you have successful 3D prints. Now there are a variety of things you can do on here. You can have it take a look and test your model to make sure that they can be printed, and it will help repair them as well. I could spend an entire hour on Print Studio because it's so amazing. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out of here, but I know there's probably a small percentage of you who are into 3D printing, but look how easy that was. That was pretty easy. Doesn't that inspire you to do 3D prints? 3D printing is so much fun. All right, let's move along. Now, I'm going to go back to some minor things that were put into the release, but they might be important to you. So I want to make sure that I cover them. So let's jump through, let's just kind of wander through these. I'm going to show you the top two. So before I go back over to AutoCAD, we're going to take a look at the PowerPoint presentation right now. I'm just going to point out that when you go into an open, any file dialog box, like the open command or the save command or whatever, buzzsaw used to always be on the places list, the panel on the left-hand side. Buzzsaw is gone. So if you still use buzzsaw, you'll be sad. And most of the people, though, will be glad it's been abolished. And then there was also this feature on the A360 tab called Design Feed. And to be honest, I always fought with that feature. It and I did not get along. And so they removed that. And if you are someone who uses that feature, you still have access to the actual commands. It just isn't going to show up in the A360 tab. And for those of you who do 3D orbits, those of you who work in 3D, you know that if you had a visual style in your drawing file and you tried to do a 3D orbit, it didn't like that, did it? And you saw that I was just rotating that cabin around. It had a 3D style on there. It is now happy to work with visual styles. So that's a nice feature. Okay, let's take a look at the top two. I already showed you text edit. Let's take a look at the top two. They're really simple. Here we go. So I am just going to go into the hatch command. You'll see, of course, the ribbon changes once I go into that command. I'm assuming that you are aware that if you drop properties down, and this is for the last probably at least 5 releases, there is a very cool option here called a hatch layer override, which allows you to set a current layer for hatching. So a default layer for hatching, I should say. So that you don't have to switch your current layer when you go to do a hatch. It will automatically know that that is the layer that you want to go to. Right? And then there was a system variable that which you should set up instantly, because that will save you time. And I'm lazy. How great would it be to not have to change your current layer every time you went to hatch, right? Save you some time. There's also a command system variable. I get them all mixed up anymore because they all work the same, called HP layer. I'm sure it's a system variable. That used to be, if you didn't type in a valid layer, that it wouldn't work. It would call you names. Well, now I can type in any layer I want. I can promise you there's no layer called Fred in the drawing file. Now it is going to use that as my default layer whenever I go into the hatch command. It just created that layer. It used all the standard defaults. That's very helpful if you write script files. So for those of you who are CAD managers, that's a very key piece of information. The rest of you probably maybe not so much. Another feature, very similar concept. If you go to the Annotate tab on the ribbon, in AutoCAD 2017, you can set up a layer specifically for your dimensions so that whenever you use the dimensioning commands, it will automatically switch to that layer for you. Once again, saving you time. You don't have to keep bopping around with your current layer. So something for you to think about. You might want to have that set. It's the same situation with dim layer. If you type in a layer that doesn't exist, we'll use Fred too. Promise you that layer doesn't exist. But no problem. It doesn't have any issues with that. It will use that now as your default layer for dimensioning, and it will use all the standard defaults. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. You should set those layers, one for dimensioning, one for hatching. It will save you a lot of time, in my humble opinion. Let's go back over to PowerPoint. All right, we're wrapping it up. So there's also a desktop app that comes with AutoCAD 2017. It comes with all of the Autodesk programs in AutoCAD 2017. And they've really done a lot of work with the desktop app. It's not as in your face when there's an update. You know, you can make it in your face if you want to, but it doesn't force you to update right then and there in the middle of a project, which is nice. It doesn't disrupt your workflow like it used to. And I will also say to you, so you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, you can see all of the apps that this particular person, whoever this screenshot came from, these are all the Autodesk apps they have loaded into their program. They can click on any one of these, and you can see if there's an update available that they should update. You will also find some great videos, some great content. You'll find a lot of information that I think will help you be successful with the various Autodesk products. Right. A couple other things I'm not going to show them to you. For those of you who work with Navisworks or BIM 360 Glue, you can bring those models, they're called coordination models, into AutoCAD 2016 and AutoCAD 2017. But in 2017, you can now use a couple of the standard object snaps. You can do endpoint and you can do center object snap. to snap to those objects, which will make it a lot easier for you to work with those coordination models. It's a pretty great feature to have. You can make sure that things don't clash, for example, inside of AutoCAD. And then the migration tools, I just think they continue to get the ability for you to migrate your various tools, like your profiles and your menu files and things like that, your CUI files. They make it easier for you to migrate them with each release, and it's a little more clear exactly which aspects of the profile that you want to bring forward. So something for you to look forward to if you haven't already loaded AutoCAD 2017. Now, I do have an AutoCAD tips and tricks booklet for AutoCAD 2017. Every year I put them out, and each time I put them out, it's valid for the current release and the one before. So the AutoCAD 2016 features are also in this booklet. And I can't hand them to you over the webinar because that's physically impossible. And I could give you a URL, but the URL is so long you'll never remember it. I recommend if you just Google AutoCAD 2017 tips and tricks, even without my name, even without Lynn Allen, it will pop up and you can easily download the PDF. All right? If I could hand it to you right now, I would do that. Let's go on. Oh, okay, the last page. So thank you so much for joining me for this presentation on AutoCAD 2017. I am hoping that if you have already upgraded, you'll at least try a couple of those features. Why wouldn't you? And I'm hoping if you haven't upgraded yet, now you have a clearer picture what's in the product so you can decide if you want to upgrade or not. And at this point, I'll hand it back over to Barbara. Are you out there?
Yes, Lynn, I'm here, and we have one question.
Okay.
When you insert a PDF into a drawing, do the markups come in as geometry also?
So if you are inserting a PDF that has markups on it, it will attempt to bring those markups in. Yeah, it'll bring it in, because if you think of it like a scan drawing, as far as I understand.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that the markups will come in because it's basically just going to take that entire PDF and bring it in.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to leave a few, seconds for our audience to see if they can, come up with questions, if they, want to take advantage of your kindness and time last few minutes. And, this is your chance, guys, and girls. In the meantime, I'm going to take the screen back and okay, and thank everybody for attending. And in the meantime, if you have any question, I'm ready to, turn them over to Lynn. But I also want to remind everyone to visit our page at novedge.com, where you can find AutoCAD and the entire Autodesk product line. And by the way, I also want to remind you that Autodesk is now offering over 50% off the cost of a 3-year subscription when you turn in your all licenses. And so you don't have to worry anymore about upgrading and updating. You will get the latest and best version every time. So, you have only till, a little over a week, and don't miss this chance. It's 50%, over 50% off. So do the math. And also, you can always contact Novedge at 866-362-8970, extension 705. And, we can help you assess your need, and you can talk to us about, does this license, can I return this license, can I return the other one, and we'll make sure you get the best deal. And for information on the latest specials and new releases, join the Novedge network on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. And don't forget, the next week webinar is about the best bits from Vectorworks 2017. And to rewatch today's webinar or previous ones, check out our Novedge YouTube and Vimeo channels. Our webinar playlist as webinars for every software taste. I don't see any other question. I think you were absolutely your extensive knowledge, I think, filled all those question marks and all those thoughts that, I mean, Yeah. So I thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you, everybody.
Sure.
Have a wonderful day and looking forward to our next webinar already. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.